There is healing in creativity. The act of creating something, writing a song, painting a picture, even creating a video for online content. That can be very cathartic, but it isn't always easy. Creative blocks are extremely demoralizing, and pushing through a block recklessly can be damaging in any number of ways. Learning to take care of yourself and finding the balance between obligation and joy is a huge part of Chicory, A Colorful Tale, a gorgeous indie game from last year. Chicory started out as a Kickstarter project, and when it finally released in the summer of 2021, it was met with great critical reception and fan adoration. Beautiful, heartfelt, and earnest to a T, Chicory, A Colorful Tale encourages players to embrace creativity, no matter where they are in their personal journey.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. I'm extremely excited to talk today about Chicory, A Colorful Tale, which was actually the winner of IndieLand 2021's fan poll. But even before we get into IndieLand, I've been closely watching Chicory's development, and as a Kickstarter backer, I've been looking forward to this game coming out for a while. And hey, if you are an indie dev looking to showcase your upcoming game, submissions are now open officially for IndieLand 2022. Links for that in a form in the box down below and in the pinned comment. This year so far has already been really freaking stressful, but completing Chicory felt like taking a much needed vacation. So thank you to everyone who donated during IndieLand and voted to make this episode happen. Games like this and episodes like this could not happen without fans like you. Let's begin.
Yes! All glory goes to the winner. Game over. Wake up! Last one standing wins. KO!
There are plenty of examples of crowdfunded games that haven't come together as fans and backers have hoped. Thankfully, Chicory is not one of them. Announced and funded way back in 2019, oh god, remember the year 2019? I sure don't. Chicory is a prime example of how to run a Kickstarter campaign extremely well. With frequent updates and clear goals, I was happy to call myself a backer of this project because I always felt the team was taking the proper time to give this game their all. And what a team! Though Chicory was created with a group of just 5 people, every one of them brings something incredible to bear. From a pedigree standpoint, I had zero doubts about backing Chicory. It's an incredible mix of people who have worked on other indie titles such as Celeste, Wondersong, Night in the Woods, and Untitled Goose Game, as well as really talented artists bringing their skills to the world of game development for the very first time. The result is a beautifully unique look and sound, unlike anything else released in 2021. Now, the core gameplay of Chicory had been locked in for some time before the team turned to Kickstarter to find the funding to finish the game. Originally just a side experiment called Draw Dog, crowdfunding helped game director Greg Lobanoff scale up the project into a full-fledged game with beautiful visuals and an incredible soundtrack. The piece grew from an art experiment into something story-driven. In the land of Picnic, every animal character and location is named after food. Artists called wielders carry a magical brush to paint the world and inspire everyone who lives there. And that brush gets passed down after a time. The current wielder is Chicory, a hare. But when the world goes from full color to black and white, and a strange twisted tree starts sprouting up everywhere, it's up to the player character to take up Chicory's brush as the new wielder and solve the mystery of why all the color has disappeared. The way the story and gameplay interact is one of Chicory, A Colorful Tale's greatest strengths. Chicory draws a lot of inspiration from 2D top-down Zelda games in terms of how the players move around and explore the world. Once the player, who the game asks you to name after your favorite food, who I named Pizza Sub for reasons that will become very clear later on, picks up the brush and the world becomes your canvas. Nearly every surface can be painted on and colored in. Not only is this a great way for the player to express themselves, but the brush has other uses as well. When I wasn't exploring the different locales of Picnic and talking to NPCs, I was using the brush to solve puzzles and to find secrets and collectibles, including brush styles, kittens, dozens of outfits, and hundreds of pieces of litter, which can be exchanged for decorations. And though Chicory, A Colorful Tale had a surprise release on Switch last month, I opted to complete it on the PlayStation 5 over the Switch or Steam. Gotta go for those trophies, my friends. As much as I would have loved to have painted everything using a touchscreen. Besides fulfilling the main quest and finding collectibles, Chicory wants players to paint the world like it's Sherwin-Williams, filling in canvases, designing costumes, even planning a mural. These are all things that help Chicory's gameplay refer back to its main themes. And that's pretty much the thrust of the game here. It doesn't sound very complicated on the surface because it isn't. Chicory, A Colorful Tale does something that I wish more games would do. It commits wholeheartedly to exploring a central theme, using the mechanics of the game itself. This sounds like a thing that video games would be especially good at doing. You would be right, but it's more difficult to execute than it sounds, as any bloated AAA collectathon can prove. The way Chicory completely nails what it sets out to do on a smaller and more satisfying scale than many other games is what makes it feel so special and impactful. In real talk, I've been wanting to complete this game for a long time, but I've been feeling trepidation about doing so. Do you want to know why? It's because I do not think I am a good artist, let alone an artist in any field. This game is all about art and drawing, and every time I try to do that, I get incredibly self-conscious. Maybe it's because I've been dating an incredible artist for so long, but I have never felt good about any art I put into the world. Things definitely get abstract whenever I would leave comments in Mario Maker 1 or 2, and I'm going to use my own words against myself here. Guys, thank you for watching. I'm never gonna draw anything ever again. And yet, here I am, completing this game. But I found Chicory to be not just fun, but really empowering and actually encouraging. So as much as I wanted to rag on myself, completing Chicory helped me actually feel pretty okay about my art. Well, not the art you think.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video. Today's video is brought to you by Gfuel. Gfuel, you guys know that they're one of our partners on the show. They've been supporting us for many years now. We love Gfuel. They make great stuff. You guys buy a ton of Gfuel. Hashtag fists on cups. I want my own shaker. And the only way we get my own shaker is if you guys buy Gfuel and you tell them, hey, we want a shaker for the Completionist. That would be sick. For those of you guys that don't know, Gfuel, gfuel.com, you can head there right now. There's all different kinds of different mix-ins that you can use with water, with milk. All of them are really delicious. I haven't had one flavor that's really gross, except for the chili dog flavor, because that was a joke flavor that you, the internet, thought it was funny to actually fulfill, and they made it, and it's gross. Trust me, that one is just awful, but the rest are really, really good. They come in all different kinds of flavors, for all different kinds of creators and game companies. There's official Sonic-themed ones. If you want to get some Gfuel, head over right now to gfuel.com and use code Completionist on checkout to get up to 30% off your order. Again, gfuel.com, use code Completionist on checkout to get 30% off your order. Thank you to Gfuel. Thank you to you guys at home for watching the show. Thank you for sponsoring us and helping us out. Now back to more Chicory. It's a great game. I'm really bad at painting things, but I know how to spell. So I spelled out Gfuel with Chicory colors and Gfuel colors as well. So I hope you guys like my painting.
So everything in Chicory is driven by Pizza Sub's ability to paint. With the brush and some unlockable traversal skills, traveling through Picnic becomes a color-filled joy. It's rare to complete a game where every gameplay aspect feels completely cohesive, but that is the case here. Even for players who, like me, are objectively terrible at any kind of drawing or art, Chicory gave me the tools to thrive. So Chicory is divided into 10 chapters with one big goal in each. Moving from one chapter to the next is fairly simple. Often the objectives are simply meeting Chicory at a specific location. There are a handful of dungeons to explore, but they aren't particularly difficult to move through. The main thing that Pizza Sub is trying to do is to restore the powers of the brush by confronting bosses, but even these encounters are pretty brief. It really seems like the main thing the developers wanted players to do during Chicory is to just vibe out. It's something I've loved about playing this game. Using the brush to paint the world feels really good, if not a little hampered by the PS5 control scheme. Every single aesthetic aspect of Chicory is calming and cozy. Environmental artist Metaline Berger and character designer Alexis Dean Jones absolutely crushed it. And this is both of their first time working on a video game. The coloring book inspired world and adorable animal characters bring Picnic to life. Every animation and emote helped me connect with the NPCs, and I couldn't wait to see every corner of Picnic and be amazed by the environment. Through it all, composer Lena Rain and sound designer M. Halberstadt have created a soundscape that perfectly matches everything happening on screen. And you might recognize these names. Lena composed the soundtrack to Celeste, one of the best video game soundtracks in recent memory. Every piece of music in Chicory, from the jaunty dinner's theme to the dark and satisfying boss music, deserves celebration. I appreciated that in one of the Kickstarter updates, Rain mentioned that she wanted to make an awesome forest theme, since forest areas in games tend to have awesome music. From one lover of the Lost Woods theme to another, I think she nails it. And Halberstadt was the sound designer for Untitled Goose Game, which simply would not have worked without its honks and clatters along the way. The gorgeous soundtrack and lovingly rendered paint squelches add a layer of texture to the visuals that I absolutely adored. But cute visuals and a soundtrack full of jams can be undercut if the actual game doesn't match the aesthetics. And I'm glad to say that is not the case here. The movement, and most crucially the painting, both feel satisfying, especially after unlocking additional traversal skills. Movement starts off as a jaunty little jog, and soon enough, I earned the ability to Splatoonify myself through any painted surface, even up waterfalls. Lobanov himself said in an interview on the Origin Story podcast that if he couldn't figure out a way to make the drawing actually fun, that he wasn't going to make the game. As far as I'm concerned, he succeeded tenfold. The controls are great, though I can't help thinking the switch screen or mouse and keyboard controls might be a little more conducive to splattering paint everywhere. On the DualSense, you have a couple options. You can hold down left trigger and paint using a finger on the touchpad, or use the right trigger and a thumbstick. It's kind of clunky, but not in any way that matters. It's even possible to play the entire game with another person. Playing Chicory in co-op basically lets two people paint at the same time. There is still only one player character though, so the story is exactly the same. And to be told, this is the perfect way to bring a younger sibling or child into the game. They can scribble all they want and the player character can control everything else. There are no achievements or bonuses tied to multiplayer, but I appreciate that it's there. Something like 90% of the game is fight free, but there are some boss fights. Bosses in this game aren't just big monsters that you lay the hurt on until they expire. Instead, they are manifestations of self-doubt or apparitions of guilt or fear. They are very clearly signaled by being inside massive, ominous-looking trees. And these boss fights are the only combat in the entire game. And interestingly enough, they are completely optional. Players can toggle whether or not they want boss fights or not from the very beginning. I appreciated that they existed, as I thought they offered a nice change of pace. And I thought they were fun and well designed, like a classic Zelda boss fight. But these boss fights aren't really meant to be challenging. They exist to break up the pace and showcase more awesome music and visuals. Even though you can skip them and it won't impact the end of the game or trophies or anything whatsoever, as a completionist, I absolutely think they are worth experiencing. They offer a completely different vibe than the rest of Chicory, and it's really cool to see how the devs made combat for their non-combat oriented game. My thoughts are kind of mixed, however, on the actual fighting part of the bosses. Essentially, you have to swipe paint on a boss when its shield drops. And using the DualSense touchpad, I could basically just zigzag my finger on it like I was playing Fruit Ninja, and then the boss would be defeated. It doesn't feel all that strategic until later battles. Fortunately, the boss fights are really just a fraction of what you use the brush for. Chicory is mostly story driven, but I found just as much pleasure finding collectibles or solving simple paint-based puzzles as I did pushing the plot forward. On nearly every screen, there are secrets to uncover, dozens of outfits to collect, and litter to find. Costumes are found in little gift boxes, and litter is just lying around out in the open. There are also 40 hidden kittens to find in the world. These little kids are scampering around to the trees or bushes that I had to keep a keen eye out for. Instead of having to chase them down, I simply had to uncover where they were hiding. Once found, they'd return to a grumpy old cat in town named Beans, who rewarded me with different furniture sets. Outfits are a reward unto themselves. I really love swapping clothes whenever I wanted to. All the outfits are super cute and a collectible I always enjoyed finding. Many of them are tied to clever puzzles where I had to use the paintbrush in unique ways to even reach them. And other outfits were hidden in gift boxes that were invisible, and they would only appear if I splashed paint in the exact right spot, indicated by a shimmery sparkle and sound. These were some of my favorite gifts to find because reaching these spots often required some out of left field thinking. There are 120 outfits total, and mixing and matching what I wore on my head versus what I put on my body was always a joy. Collecting the 100 pieces of litter fell into a similar category. Litter is almost always out in the open, but reaching it is sometimes a challenge. Occasionally, it's given by NPCs as a reward, and I always laughed when it said, "You got some trash." Litter functions as currency in Chicory, with several shops offering decorative items in exchange for increasing amounts of litter. I found it very satisfying to walk into a plant shop or the underground bug store, and then I'd clean out everything they had to offer all at once. The 223 pieces of decorative items came in handy to fulfill certain side quests. There are a handful of characters trying to throw parties in certain locations, and no one will show up to those parties unless the locations have a ton of decorations. I felt like I was being rewarded when I made a location into a primo party spot, as NPCs would suddenly appear there the next time I visited. It's super cute to see how the characters interact with the player and respond to the way I laid things out for them. I am very much on the record on the internet as a guy who doesn't understand and will never like, enjoy, or complete Animal Crossing. The irony of connecting with Chicory but not with Animal Crossing is not lost on me at all. On the surface, the games might seem similar, adorable animals, catchy tunes, but I think where Chicory succeeds is that there's a story that I actually felt compelled to experience. Instead of daily chores, I always felt like I was heading towards something. The writing gripped me at every turn, whether it was a horse and a crow discussing the merits of socialism versus capitalism, or a snarky fox learning to let down their walls. The themes of what it means to be an artist made me want to see everything Chicory had to offer. And yes, that meant swallowing my pride, overcoming my anxiety, and sitting down to paint. I did not expect to genuinely love the painting, which I found very soothing. I didn't know how much I needed this positive reinforcement throughout the game, but I really did. I want to talk about burnout. In 2021, my productivity was completely derailed. I went from making and producing 8 videos on the main channel here and almost 30 on Beard Bros a month, down to 6 and then down to 4, with ultimately 1 or 2 on Beard Bros. Some of this was for positive reasons, like my new job and roles and responsibilities at G4. Some of this was because of my own health problems that have been getting worse and worse as time goes on. But some of this was due to the very real feeling of being completely depleted and out of energy. And yes, some of that was definitely from this ongoing pandemic, but other aspects are more personal and finding my way as a creator in a constantly changing digital space. What Chicory A Colorful Tale gets at is the feeling of being an artist under pressure and what that does to them. The title character is spiraling, and my little pizza sub doesn't know how to help them. Even though I'm wandering around a coloring book world and controlling a little cute dog person, there is a real emotional truth at the core of every interaction that is startling. Video games are an art form, and Chicory, A Colorful Tale, is the next exploration of themes of depression, burnout, and the impact of artistic expression from a creator who clearly cares a lot about those topics. For this game, the entire team wanted to develop something that emphasizes how much fun it is to make stuff. Simply make stuff. Even if the player isn't a professional or a genius or doesn't think of themselves as a good artist, Chicory manages to give players the feeling of, hey, I can make stuff too, and it somehow doesn't feel corny or cringy. So going back to those frequent Kickstarter updates, in one of them, Lobanov expresses one of the team's major intentions very cleanly. We all have a different relationship with creativity and our creative selves. I'm interested in exploring that and in giving the player a space to explore that for themselves too. In fact, in interviews with every creative who worked on Chicory, they all say something similar. Chicory is a deeply personal game about finding confidence in yourself, learning and understanding self-value, and finding inspiration to explore creativity. And for a person who really, truly, desperately gets self-conscious drawing or performing in front of other people, I actually started to find confidence through the game, specifically by painting in the Art Academy. So in the Art Academy, there are two main things to paint: 10 recreations of famous portraits in the world of Picnic, and 10 expressionistic pieces. The recreations are hilarious. The tools that the player has at hand are purposefully a little messy and imprecise, so there is no way to perfectly mirror the art depicted on screen. You can get close, and obviously there are people on the internet and mega fans who went out of their way to go above and beyond. And for a few pieces, I really tried to recreate the paintings as best I could. Others, I would say less so. The expression paintings ostensibly give the player a longer leash. Subjects like expressing anger through painting or sadness. If you want to try and psychoanalyze me, please interpret my take on a dream I had. But for lighter fare, I was even asked to express a friend or a cute creature. And I'm actually proud of these. Look at this, frog in a car. And hey, here's Alex. And for you out there, if anyone wants to make some Completionist fan art in this here Art Academy, I would love to see it and retweet it. The best thing about this part of the game, and what really surprised me after hearing Greg Lobanov describe the thought process behind all of it, is that the player receives feedback here, but not in the way I would expect. The NPCs at the Art Academy never directly disparage the player by commenting on the quality of the paintings. It's a thoughtful touch. Art schools tend to be pretty fucking ruthless. I went to school for film and theater and dealt with my share of teachers and upperclassmen who are manipulative or even emotionally abusive. This is shockingly common, and the story in Chicory actually addresses this in the form of Chicory's former mentor, Blackberry. Blackberry the deer pushes Chicory really, really hard, so much so that Chicory isn't even sure if she likes what she's doing anymore. Her mentor took the joy out of the art for her. Helping Chicory come to terms with these complicated feelings about her mentor was definitely a high point in the plot. One of my favorite side quests that leads to what would become my favorite brush style is related to the Art Academy. There's a student in class, Radish, who thinks the player character isn't putting in as much work as they should be. She storms out of the class and drops out of art school. She later asked for the player character to put in a good word for her at the gallery in Elevensies, hoping that my status as the wielder would be enough for that gallery to feature her, but it's all for naught. The gallery prefers to feature works by artists who are already popular. Not because Radish's art isn't good, it just doesn't have the following, and so she gets rejected. But later, Radish decides to submit her art to be featured at a local cafe. It ends up being super fulfilling and inspires her to keep creating. This was profoundly affecting.
People ask me all the time about what they need to do to be a content creator, whether it be a streamer, a YouTube person, a TikToker, an influencer, and I always say the same thing. Don't do it because you're trying to make any money off of it. Do it because you love it, because you have passion, because you genuinely have interest in whatever it is you're talking and sharing with the world. Do it because you have something to f***ing say. Making a living off of artistic endeavors can be a real struggle, and it often feels like fighting a losing battle. But if you're just in it for the approval of someone above you, you're never going to feel like you're good enough. Now, this isn't to discourage anyone, but to drive home one of the many messages in Chicory. Anyone can be an artist. Putting yourself out there is what is important. Having a supportive community that you engage with is key. Creating and celebrating what you create is what makes you an artist. The way Chicory encourages players to mess around and make things is very empowering, and honestly helped serve as a reminder of why the hell I do what I do in the first place.
Sometimes being a creator is tough and unfulfilling. Pizza Sub experiences imposter syndrome for a huge chunk of the game, but completing Chicory not only helps Pizza Sub step into her confidence, but it helped me do so as well. Completing this game means that you're going to go through a journey not just as the player character, but as a witness to what Chicory is going through as well. At first, I felt like a neutral observer to Chicory's depression, but as the game went on and the story progressed, I felt like I was helping a friend understand more about themselves, and as a result, learned about my own 21-hour journey too. By the end of the game, both Chicory and Pizza Sub came to an understanding about what inspires them to create. It's not the brush, it's not the institution of the wielders. Color and passion comes from inside, deep within the heart. No matter how many times Pizza Sub gets knocked down by self-doubt or criticism, she still finds inspiration. Just going through the story and seeing the credits, not super going out of my way or anything, I was sitting at a whopping 89% completion. The final 11% was actually pretty easy to do on cleanup. I polished off all 20 Art Academy classes to earn the diploma. Scouring the map for the final few pieces of litter and outfits was very easy thanks to the great in-game hint system. I think the rewards for completing Chicory are outstanding. Every NPC side quest has great dialogue, which feels like its own reward. Shoutouts to the mystery of the missing squeeze, but also provide new tools for artistic expression. Out of the 25 brush styles I found, my favorite one was the multicolored style at the end of the Radish questline. As rewards for other side quests, I earned different camera lenses and even more decor. But for me personally, and for you at home, there is one reward here that I feel I can share with everyone publicly now. I mentioned how my player character was named Pizza Sub, and how there was a reason for that. Well, if you visit the town of Dinner, and your character has that name as their character name, you will spy a familiar friend within the Beer Bros community and the Completionist community. Frog in a car. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Frog in a car is this joke meme from Mother 3 that Alex and I just kind of fell into and laughed at. But my partner, with the biggest heart in the world, made her own version of Frog in a car. And Frog in a car became an internet sensation. So much so that the little guy is now a plushie. If you're watching this video, you can probably purchase a Frog in a car down below. And that totally supports my company and myself and what we're doing. Since I supported this game at a certain tier, I was able to contribute a little piece of completionist history to Chicory. You don't even have to do anything to earn this other than name your character Pizza Sub. Now, you can find this character out in the wild without Pizza Sub being the name. But if Pizza Sub is your name, you will see this frog in a car way more often than you should. This to me felt like my own personal completion bonus. Shoutouts once again to my lovely partner Amanda and to the developers for including this in there. It helped me feel like I was a part of the game, however small it may be. Earning the 34 trophies was an easy breeze. And at the end of it all, there is an in-game reward for completionists that do everything. If you're walking along and happen to pass through a tile with a phone booth, it'll suddenly ring. Phone booths are the game's hint system, where normally Pizza Sub calls and talks to her parents to get clues on where to go to next. But in this case, someone else is calling you. Answer the call, and an NPC will tell you that you've officially completed the game 100%. They will then tell you to visit your home in the town of Luncheon. When I stopped in, I found 5 new visitors who turned out to be the creators of the game themselves. So the real completion reward for the game is encouragement and a thank you from the developers. I always love this. It feels personal and heartfelt, and it's a great insight into the passion the dev team felt. It's quirky and cute, and a great behind the scenes bonus for those of us who put in the time. Doesn't affect the gameplay whatsoever, but for an artistic game like this, doesn't need anything like that. I love feeling like there is a rapport with the developers, and the sense of pride that the developers express in this secret exchange is very humbling and very cool.
Chicory, A Colorful Tale is an extremely special game. It's not the first to have a positive message about self-confidence, healing, and artistic expression, but it feels like one of the more honest ones out there. I'm not saying that Chicory suddenly turned me into an amazing artist by any means, but through great dialogue and storytelling, it helps every player face their doubts and fears. Completing it leads to some great moments and fascinating conversations. I loved hearing from the developers themselves, and I think everyone should take the opportunity to do so. So, with that in mind, I give this game my completionist rating of completed.